girl. How you doing, Natalie?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm a
Good.
little sleepy, but that's just what it is. That's mom life. That's what's happening.
I am too. I am exhausted. I think it's just this weather always does it to me when it gets. I don't know what it's like there, but it's really gray and gloomy
Oh
and
yeah,
rainy here. Yeah, so
yeah.
it always impacts me.
Right. Gets dark
Always.
so early and all that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it takes me a while to kind of adjust to that. Probably it takes me a couple months, and then by that time it's
Right.
over.
Winter's over, and then you. Right. The whole winter is like hibernation mode for real. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely go into hibernation mode. Well, I appreciate you for being here. I really do. I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started with some of the questions. Just kind of let us know who Miss Natalie is.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm Natalie Pipkin. Born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am a drum circle facilitator. I have a company called the Pulse Project Indy, where we drum for community drumming for social, emotional, and cultural wellness and development. I'm the owner of Black World Schoolers Mobile Bookstore, which is an online bookstore, soon to be bookstore on wheels. I'm a home educator. I'm a wife. I'm a friend.
Yes.
Whatever treats my sister.
Yeah.
I do. I'm in the community. Whatever, anything liberation center, anything about that life. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah, and you really are about that. Like you aren't one of those people that just kind of talk about it. You actually are out there doing it, and I'm definitely going to share, your website in regards to the Black uh, mobile bookstore because it's just I'm just so inspired by it. I love it. I love the idea. I tell people about it all
Thank
the time.
you.
Oh yeah, and I really want
Oh
people
my
to.
gosh, I just saw your earrings.
Oh,
Oh, come on. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Go ahead. Sorry. You said it was informal. You know that's all I am. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, hey, do you? Because I'm the same way, so I love it. No, I just really love what you're doing, and I'm just so proud to call you friend. And just the idea of what you're doing with the mobile bookstore. And you know what's so interesting about some of these ideas is that it's not necessarily that they're right, like unique to just us, right? Like we were the first person to ever do it. It has nothing to do with that. It's about the passion that goes behind it. You,
That.
you get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
know plenty of people who do things, right?
Mhm.
And they are not always passionate about it, or they don't have a certain type of love surrounding it. So I see it in you, and I really just love what you're doing. And then you're bringing your boys up the same way, and they're so involved as well, and so smart and so wise. And I call them my nephews and never met them, but that's okay. But I'll meet them one day. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I have a question for you. I wanted to ask you if you could share a moment that changed you in some way, that impacted your life in some kind of way.
Hmm. There's so many moments. But the moment that sticks out the most to me, and I got to figure out why. And probably when I say it, I'll know why.
Hmm.
Um, I remember being in the seventh grade, and I remember having to go to in-school suspension.
Mm,
I was the quiet student. I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't love being there. I just did what I was supposed to do. And I went home.
hmm.
But there was like this thing. We had restroom passes. If you use too many of them, if you use all of them, you can't go after that.
Right,
That's not how my brain works. So
right.
it's just like you don't tell me that.
You can't go to the bathroom, right?
It doesn't work that way. So I
Yeah,
remember just going and not caring about consequences because I'm like, it ain't gonna kill me. You know what I mean?
right, right.
So I just went, and then of course I got in school suspension, which is just like being, in a cell for the whole
Oh,
day.
trust me, I used to be in school suspicion
I
quite a
think you
bit.
look like you was like, yeah, girl, I know that.
I know that very well.
Right. So, but because I was new to this, I was like, this is what y'all accept. Like I remember going in there and seeing like people I knew, and I'm like, y'all do this all the time. Like this is a waste of time. We're not learning anything, and nothing here happening. What the reasons are ridiculous. Like this shouldn't be. I'm like, look, when he comes in here, we're all gonna stand up, we're gonna walk out, right?
Oh
Look, I
wow.
already called my mom. She's gonna be up here. She'll talk for y'all too. We'll figure out how y'all gonna get home. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but at least gonna get about this sale. They're
So
like,
you
yeah,
so you've been an organizer for a long time.
right. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. So then he comes in there. His name is Mr. Logan. He comes in there, and I was just like, And then I signed myself in and I signed myself out. And I got up. I was like, come on, y'all. They stayed
Nope.
there. I was like,
That was me. That
this
was
is,
me. I was always,
this is
I
your
was
cue.
always that person standing out there by myself. Yes.
Right. This is
Yes.
your cue. So I
Right.
walked up to the front, went to my counselor's office to call my mom, say I'm out. She came and got me because I was like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
But I felt a certain way at first. Now that I'm older, I understand why people didn't get up. In that moment, I'm like, these are the hardest. These are the ones who will fight anybody, slap a teacher, cuss everybody. Like these are the ones. I'm like, I know they gonna do this because I don't. You know what I mean? This is people would know I would do this, but this is my character to just like push against if I have to. But I'm like, I know they're gonna do it. So in that moment, there was all these feelings. A young person, like they left me hanging, and da da da. But now I see, like, okay, I understand it now. But that was a huge huge moment in my life because, when it's time to stand up, I do that, and I knew that before 7th grade, but having the opportunity to really do it, and then from there I never stopped doing it. And any chance I could rise up, and I was ready, you know what I mean? Because I did what I was supposed to do and stayed wherever I was. When it happened, people knew I wasn't playing, so I wasn't just doing things every 5 minutes. When it was big, it was important to me. Action was gonna happen, and that's how I live today. If it's important to me, you're gonna know it because I'm going to push. There's no obstacle. There's nothing gonna get in my way. Like it's going to happen. So that was an important moment in my life.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are very much sister spirits when it comes to that, and just having that drive and just having that passion and just saying, you know what? Because I'm the kind of person that if I've seen somebody else do it, it's like if they can do it, I can do it. Like I don't limit myself. And then even if I've never seen something, right? I'm like, well, I mean, somebody had to start something at some point, right? So I may, be the person that's going to start this on this journey that I'm on. So I really definitely that resonates with me for sure because I was always that person that was in trouble. But what was so interesting, it was for the same reason. It wasn't just me just trying to act up. I was always speaking up about something. And I think I was a little bit beyond my years because I just was like, this is silly. And even if it was a teacher, I'm like, you can't talk to me like that. I'm a person. So I've always been kind of big on, respecting people, being kind at all costs. I've always kind of been like that. So who is someone that impacted you in a major way in your life that left or still leaves, a lasting impression?
Oh wow. There's so many people I've never met, historically, but then there's people in my life. Currently,
I know it's so hard to put it into one person.
It is because right now in this journey I'm on, my children, they are, they're the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard. Like, but historically, I'm gonna say just I'm gonna say my grandfather, Leroy Berry. Yeah, I'm gonna say my grandfather, just because he was a community leader. He did everything everything he did was community centered. It was never about money. It was never about being seen. It was always about this needs to be done and I can do it. There's no one in this position to do it. I'll do it. He held so many different positions. I mean, he did so many different things, but all I mean, he was an embalmer. He had a funeral home. He was a bus driver. He owned a fleet of school buses. He did people's taxes in the, and even with the driving the hearse. The story about him in the 60s when the ambulances wouldn't come and take Black people to the hospitals, he would use his hearse and take them, for free. Like all these things he did. I mean, there's so many stories about him, and I mean, I could even say my grandfather's on both sides. That's my mom's father, but my dad's father, he lost his arm in when he was in the Army, but he was a phenomenal cook here in Indianapolis. He would drive around. First of all, he was a cook with one arm, but he would drive around and deliver meals to people all the time, just out of the goodness of his heart. So I mean, there's just there's these big people who do these big things, I could name, or people like teachers or people that I've met throughout time, but those stories stick with me because again, that community center, the selflessness, and just the sacrifices that they made, and they didn't have a lot and they didn't leave with a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Yeah.
it's important for me to remember their stories and share their legacy, because sometimes we were ready to want to tell a story about the richest grandpa we had, or the one who had the most, and they didn't have a lot, but
Yeah.
they did a whole lot. So
And that's the thing, is that they really did have a lot, right? We know now they had a lot.
right, we know
Like
that.
we get it now that, when you look at stuff from a world's view,
Right.
sometimes people don't have a lot, right? But then when you look at it from where we are now, and a more spiritually connected to life and to the world, I mean to the earth, we understand that they had plenty. They had
Yeah.
so much to give. And it's like, it's really interesting here, because I didn't know that about your grandfathers, and that's really interesting. So it's like, I mean, you kind of have that need to serve your community. It's kind of like runs through you.
Yeah,
You,
and even the school bus part, my sons pushed that. They shared that with me. I didn't even connect those two. I have a picture of my son and my grandfather before he passed in front of his school buses that he still had in his driveway. He was like 92 years old then.
oh wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, my great great grandfather, Zellersbury, was the first. He owned the fleet of school buses, and then he passed down to his sons,
Really?
who
Oh
just
wow.
have a school bus with the idea that I'm gonna be a bus driver, driving
Yes.
the global bookstore. The kids are like, you're having a bus just like granddad had a bus. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
sometimes you don't see the connection, or you never think
Yeah.
like these things are related, but they are. It's like you're
They
still
really are.
doing. You're still carrying on a legacy. You're still carrying they pass a torch to you, didn't even know they passed, and you're carrying it on in some kind of way. So I
Yeah,
thought
for
that was
sure.
cool.
Yeah, that service to community is so grand, it's so big. And when I see people do it so selflessly, right? Because
Mhm.
and that's the thing that's so interesting about this, is that even what you do and what a lot of people do, especially when it's community driven, community service driven, it's so interesting, because people really don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Oh,
They
not
just see, yeah, they see, like, you got the bus. They're like, okay, she got a bus. And then they see, okay, you took the seats out. Okay. And for people, it's kind of like, okay, that's cool. But they don't understand, like, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into stuff to really make stuff come into fruition. Like, people really don't see that. And it's like, if people could just get a small glimpse of what goes into serving people, it's huge. And it
oh
takes a
yeah.
lot from you. It's a very, I mean, it takes so much from you.
Yeah, that's probably why we're both exhausted for real. Because talk about,
I
oh,
know.
it's gray. It's been gray since we was kids. We know how the weather works, but
Exactly.
it
No, it's
is.
the truth.
It doesn't take away from you. You don't feel depleted, but you give your all every day, because I know you can agree with this, because we could do things very we could just throw things together if we wanted
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
We don't have to do the things the way we do them, right?
Right.
We don't have to put that much care and effort to do what we're doing. You know what I mean? We
Right.
could do it in a very very basic way,
Yeah.
but because I know what my community deserves, and I know what
Yes.
we usually get. We get
Yes.
scraps of things, and
Yeah.
and we have to praise people for giving us scraps of things, or a day of something special. I'm trying to give them you know, a lifetime of something
I like.
special, and
Yeah.
trying to give them something that no one else would give to us. No one else would put that much care into what I'm doing. No one, they wouldn't do that, because
Yeah.
a lot of times people don't feel like our community members deserve that.
Yeah.
Just be
Yeah.
grateful for whatever you get. Be grateful for that. But no, I want for them what I would want for myself, what I want for my children, not something that's just enough for them. They're just as important as I am. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really, like I said, I'm going to share which I do all the time, but I'm going to share it with this particular video when we put it out. But I really encourage people to support and see what you're doing. I mean, the books that you bring in are phenomenal. I mean, I've gotten a couple myself. It's even some kid books I'm looking at, like, I would like to read that. They look
Right.
so. I mean,
Yeah.
the authors and the illustrators. I mean, they're just beautiful pieces of work. So I
Thank
really
you.
applaud you with that. Um, what's something that you would tell your younger self?
Um, man, something I would tell my younger self.
Yeah.
I did it anyway, but I feel like she needed to hear keep going, like, so many times, like, even
Yeah.
though there was something like you had no kind of choice but to keep going. um
Right.
there was, sometimes you you drag along. Sometimes you aren't going. You know what I mean? Sometimes you are just at a standstill, you know. But just keep going. Keep going. And this a cheerleader. Keep going. Keep
Yeah.
going. Keep
Yeah.
going. This stuff isn't real. These rules aren't real.
Right. Right.
these rules aren't real. You can create the life you desire. All of this I just be all in her ear. But keep going. Just
Yeah.
keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because there's so many children, I feel like now, when they don't meet this mark, automatically give up. Oh, you can't read by the third grade? Oh, you're already destined for prison, right? That's stuff we tell our kids, right?
Isn't that crazy?
You can't,
Crazy.
you don't make this grade, you can't go to college. You can't, you can't do this by this age or this thing by this. Then and I really believe, even though we're still moving through life because you have no choice, mentally you shut down. Mentally, you're like,
yeah.
I cannot go any further, right?
Yeah.
So there were definitely times in my life like where I've heard things or experienced things where it's like, I'm finished, right? There's not a chance for me. So there had to been someone or something that did say that to me, but I wish I could have told myself that continuously, like, keep going. You're good.
Yeah. And you're worthy. You know, it's so interesting because, like you said, when they have these benchmarks and all these different rules and these tests and these things that are supposed to, test, and that's a whole nother conversation. They drive me nuts because it's this idea that everybody's supposed to fit into this little, cookie cutter idea of, if you don't finish this test or do this well on this test, that you're not, academically sound, or you're not
this one move in life determines your entire future. And I'm like, as an adult, we know that all these things that happened before, ain't nobody asking us about.
No.
Girl, in 6th grade, what you do? You know what I mean? When you was a sophomore, how did that paper go? Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about even what I done yesterday. It's a new day. It's like a baseball game, right? Nobody care about your home run from yesterday. Nobody care about your loss. Like, today's a new day. You really do, as an adult, get a new day. We don't tell children that. Like, tomorrow's a new day. Throw the other day away. Try again.
Try again. And you did okay. A lot of times you did fine. You did fine yesterday.
Right.
Today you can do even better, and so it's really interesting, the stuff that we sow into our children. And when I say I mean as a as a whole, that we sow into our children, and they start to believe it because they hear it so often that they truly believe that that's their measuring cup. And it's just really unfortunate because, like you said, just keep going. I mean, tomorrow is tomorrow. And when you wake up and you get that new opportunity, take advantage of it and be thankful for it and keep moving. So, so my last question for you is, if you had some words of encouragement to leave with us, what would they be? And you said the keep going part, but do you have anything else that you want to leave?
Oh, I would say, I mean, just simply, you're needed. I think everybody sees somebody else doing something like special or phenomenal or unique, and they say, oh, that's that person, they're doing that thing, but there's nothing for me to do. And I would say you're needed, whether it's this idea you've been sitting on, or this thing you felt like was impossible, or what I mean, or what, this dream you keep pushing back. Like, you're needed. If that came to your mind, if that's in your heart, you can't sleep, that's something you're supposed to be doing. Or on the other side of that, if you see somebody who's doing that thing and you keep seeing that person and you keep clapping for that person, maybe you're supposed to be supporting that person. Sometimes we don't realize that that's our role too, is to join forces to make movements and dreams happen for others that benefit all of us. So you're needed. You're needed. Either you're assisting your community in partnership with somebody, or you have your own dream that you want to push forward. Like, you're needed. So don't be scared.
Right, exactly.
And
I love that.
Be useful. You're needed. You're needed.
Yeah, and like you said, remember that. That's one thing is that I like to share when I do like leadership classes with high schoolers and middle schoolers, is that sometimes we don't understand that it could be really what we consider really small things that are big for other people.
Oh, right?
So it's like, even if you're that person that's even if you're kind of shy or don't talk much, but you're that one person that speaks to that one person and just says, hey, how you doing today? Or, I noticed you got your hair done and looks nice. Those things like that are just as important as these big grand things.
I would even say they're even more important. I don't think we cheer we don't cheer loud enough for people who are doing small things well. Like small things well, like getting up every day and doing that small thing very well. People are doing very grand, mediocre things. Very grand, even lasting, but know how I know they're mediocre? Because the situations we're in as a community or whatever, some things don't change for all of us. You're doing something very grand that doesn't impact, and someone can do something very small, right? Yeah. So that woman who's been running that home daycare, taking care of them babies, so these other parents can go to work stress-free, not have to worry about the care of their children. Like, that's a small thing, running this child care for 30, 40 years, right? It's a small thing doing well that impacts so many people, right? That mom who's, all these little small things, we need to cheer you, right? In your living room, having these conversations with people, doing small things well. I think we need to cheer louder for those things. And that's exactly what you do, actually. You're making sure that people who are doing small things well are being seen and heard. So yeah, that small thing's important, girl.
It is. I appreciate that. I always, whenever people talk about this, I always think about the crossing guards. I think about crossing guards that stand out there, and help the kids get across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Rain, snow, whatever. And a lot of times it's older people who are retired or whatever, but they're out there. They smile at those kids. They ask them how they're doing. They make sure they feel safe. Kids, if they don't feel safe any other time in their life, in that moment that they're with that crossing guard, they feel safe, protected, seen, heard. And so I always think about them as an example of people that oftentimes get overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
But they do great things every day, and they leave lasting impressions on children, and and help give parents a peace of mind.
Oh, yeah.
Just so much stuff. So I agree with you in regards to just praising people that are doing, because even in my community, I get so frustrated sometimes when I see different awards things or different stuff where people are honored. It's always the same people. It's always the same people, like they recycle over and over again that they're giving these awards to. And I'm saying, what about the lady that serves lunch every day and make sure that these babies eat, or make sure they don't forget their boots? What about the crossing guards? What about people that we overlook and we don't think are important? We don't think they're important, but they are. They are very important in making sure, especially our babies feel good, and are safe and protected.
And during the pandemic, they started to recognize people who are doing small things well, right?
Yes.
Because they start panicking, right? Like, we need you here, so you're crazy for the wrong reasons. Don't leave. Well, you're important. But as soon as you get back into the groove of things, it's like,
they got forgotten again. They got forgotten again. That is so true. That is so true. Well, Natalie, I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you. And I know you and I can talk about this all night, because these are things that we're very passionate about, making sure that people are seen, making sure our community is being fed, being sown into. And again, I just applaud you for the work that you're doing. I mean, I know it's not easy. I know you have some long days. I know it takes a lot to do. I mean, people even don't realize, like, even the creative part of like advertising for yourself, that takes time and energy. Like,
you're working for yourself. You're every part. Okay, I'm the social media content manager. I'm the I'm shipping and packing and delivery and website developer and book curator and book reviewer. Like,
you are doing a lot. You are doing a lot, and you still show up for your your children in such a beautiful way. Your husband in such a beautiful way. So I mean, you are just phenomenal, and I just really cannot wait to see how this all ends up. I cannot wait to see you behind that bus, girl, driving that bus.
Me all 5 feet, girl, all 5 feet. Everybody says, you gonna drive that? I'm like, yeah. They thought I was getting a van. People thought like, oh, you're gonna get a. I'm like, no, like
I'm driving this bus, and I cannot wait to see you pull up with that dun dun. I cannot wait. I have already envisioned it. I see it, and I cannot wait to see that happen and it come all together for you. So I love you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to come on. And girl, I can't wait to see you. So take care. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.